I always believed our family life was steady and simple. As long as the bills were paid and the lights stayed on, I felt everything must be fine. I rarely paused to wonder what the real numbers looked like behind our routines. Most days I moved from one small task to another without much pause. Caring for the children and keeping the house running quietly filled my hours. I often told myself that the money part could wait for another day. Sometimes I opened the banking app just for a moment. My eyes would skim the numbers, and a quiet tension would rise in my chest. I usually closed it quickly and returned to the comfort of daily routines. I had never really sat down to look at everything together. The idea always felt like something for a quieter day that never arrived. A small part of me also wondered if I was avoiding what I might see. One quiet night, the house finally grew still. I opened our financial notes with a mixture of curiosity and honesty. In that quiet moment, I realized I was ready to see the truth for myself. I sat alone at the kitchen table after everyone had gone to bed. The house felt quieter than usual, like it was giving me space to think. I turned on a small lamp and opened my laptop slowly. I began listing our family expenses one by one: groceries, school payments, and the bills that arrive every month. I tried to look at the numbers without judging myself. Some of the smaller expenses surprised me. They looked harmless when they happened during the week. Seeing them together felt different. I noticed subscriptions we had not used in months. There were also small purchases repeating almost every week. I realized quiet habits can slowly grow larger. That night, I did not feel guilty. Instead, I felt like I had found something honest. I was finally looking at what I had avoided for a long time. I realized caring for a home is not only about cooking and cleaning. Understanding our money is part of that care too. It felt like a responsibility I was ready to hold. I started thinking about our children's future. I wanted our home to feel steady and calm for them. I knew it begins with small choices today. I looked at the list again with a calmer mind. The numbers no longer felt intimidating. I simply wondered what truly matters for our family. I realized I had been relying mostly on feelings about our finances. If everything looked normal, I assumed everything was fine. I had forgotten that numbers quietly tell their own story. I started separating what we truly need from what we simply enjoy. I wrote down the things that support our daily life. I also quietly admitted which ones were only habits. I noticed the small spending I rarely questioned. Coffee, quick meals, and spontaneous shopping appeared again and again. Seeing them together surprised me more than I expected. I began to understand how small habits quietly shape our family life. Each small choice carries a little weight. I found myself looking at money in a calmer, more thoughtful way. I didn't want every month to carry quiet worry. I wanted our home to feel steady and enough. I knew the change had to begin with awareness. I started thinking about what truly brings our family happiness. Many of those moments did not require much money at all. Time together quietly felt more valuable. I wrote down a few new priorities for our family. I wanted our spending to reflect what truly matters to us. Even this small step felt meaningful. I looked at the list once more with a lighter feeling. Not everything needed to change at once. I only needed to begin with a simple step. I began writing a small plan that night. I told myself I would track our spending every week. It felt like a quiet first step towards something steadier. I decided to pause before buying things. I wanted to ask myself if it was truly needed. That small question already made my thoughts clearer. I wanted to talk with my husband about it. Our finances were never just my responsibility. I felt calmer knowing we could walk through this together. I pictured our family's future for a moment. I wanted our home to feel peaceful for the children. Financial stability simply meant a calmer place to grow. I realized money was never the real goal. I only wanted it to support the life we were building. That thought brought a quiet sense of relief. I thought about the lessons my children might learn someday. I wanted them to understand enough, not just more. I realized those lessons begin with our daily habits. I started to feel a little more confident. I didn't need to become a financial expert overnight. I only needed to stay aware day by day. I looked back at the notes and smiled quietly. Those small steps already meant something for our family. I knew this journey had only just begun. I realized something simple that night while sitting quietly with the numbers. Managing money was really about choosing how our life would feel each day. I wanted to start choosing more carefully. I didn't want our home to feel tight with quiet financial pressure. I wanted it to feel like a place where everyone could breathe easily. That kind of peace felt deeply valuable to me. I slowly understood that awareness mattered more than perfection. I didn't need flawless plans or perfect discipline. I just needed to keep noticing and learning. I also stopped blaming myself for not paying attention sooner. Instead, I chose to see this moment as a chance to grow. That shift made everything feel lighter. I realize many mothers probably have nights like this. We care for everyone else before we pause for ourselves. Maybe we are all quietly learning together. I believe big changes rarely arrive all at once. They begin with small choices that feel almost invisible. Tonight felt like the quiet beginning of one of those choices. I closed my laptop and noticed how calm the room felt. I felt a little closer to the future I wanted for our family. Even a small step seemed meaningful. I looked around the quiet house before turning off the light. I felt grateful for the small life we had built together. I wanted to care for it wisely. I thought about many mothers who quietly carry their families every day. I know how often we place everyone else's needs before our own. I felt that we also deserve a little peace when it comes to money. I began to feel that understanding money does not have to be frightening. It slowly felt like another way of caring for the people I love. I wanted to look at it with a more open heart. I realized money is only a tool in our lives. It should never decide the atmosphere of our home. I wanted our family to use it with quiet wisdom. I learned that honesty with myself matters more than perfection. A small moment of courage can open a quiet door. I felt grateful for finally looking at everything. I started imagining small habits we could build together. Nothing complicated, just small awareness in daily choices. I felt that simple routines could quietly shape our future. I know this journey will not always feel smooth. I may make mistakes again along the way. Still, I choose to keep learning little by little. I believe every family walks a different path with money. There's no reason to compare our journey with anyone else. I only want our home to feel a little better than yesterday. I glanced at the clock on the kitchen wall that night. The house felt unusually calm around me. I knew this quiet moment would stay in my memory. I began to notice how many meaningful things in life are quietly simple. I feel the warmth of being together matters more than anything new we could buy. I want to remember that feeling in the ordinary days ahead. I imagine our home filled with a quiet sense of enough. I notice how that feeling softens the way I look at everything around me. I believe that kind of peace can grow little by little. I remind myself that being a mother often means learning along the way. I do not always know the perfect answer in the moment. I simply try to respond with care each day. I start to see our financial journey as something long and steady. I understand that meaningful change rarely arrives overnight. I choose to move forward patiently. I think about the future our family will grow into. I want our children to feel safe when they think about money. I feel that kind of safety would be a quiet gift for them. I begin to see our finances like a story unfolding over time. Each small decision feels like a line written on a page. I want those pages to reflect thoughtful choices. I feel grateful for the quiet lesson that night offered me. Awareness often arrives during moments when everything else is still. I try to listen when those moments appear. I know this journey will continue long after tonight. There will always be more for me to understand. For the first time, I feel ready to keep walking forward. I quietly hope this small story might reach other mothers somewhere. I know many of us are simply trying to do the best we can with what we have. Thinking about that makes me feel less alone tonight. I start to believe that talking about money does not have to feel tense. When the conversation is gentle, it becomes easier to stay open. I want our home to hold that kind of space. I find myself wanting a life that feels more intentional. When I notice my choices, they begin to form a quiet direction. I want our family to grow around values we truly understand. I slowly understand that peace does not come from having everything. It grows from recognizing what is already enough. That thought feels steady in my mind. I feel a quiet urge to keep writing moments like this down. Simple stories often hold lessons I almost miss at first. Sharing them honestly feels important to me. I begin to trust that mothers carry wisdom inside their everyday lives. Sometimes it only needs a quiet moment to be heard. Tonight, I think I finally listened. I hope this small beginning gently guides our family forward. Even quiet steps can slowly change direction. I feel ready to keep walking this path. I look at the notebook one last time before closing it. Starting felt harder than I expected, yet it also feels quietly meaningful. I know this is only the beginning. I closed the notebook slowly and rested my hand on its cover for a moment. I felt a quiet kind of relief, the kind that comes after finally facing something honestly. I sensed that tonight might be the beginning of a calmer chapter for our family. I realized learning about money is part of learning about life. I want to grow into a calmer and wiser version of myself as a mother. I believe small adjustments over time can slowly bring more peace into our home. I know every family walks through its own story with money. I no longer feel the need to make everything perfect. I only want to move forward with honesty and patience. I feel grateful for this quiet space where I can share small reflections like this. I imagine someone else sitting in their own kitchen late at night, thinking about similar things. I hope these small stories can make those moments feel a little less lonely. I feel quietly hopeful about the road ahead for our family. I will keep writing these small reflections about money, family, and everyday life. I like the idea that we might continue growing together here.